Today I wanted to ask about some of the most commonly asked questions from the readers. First of all, a lot of people are interested to know what gave you the desire to write this series.
I was teaching on the adulterous woman in a women's Bible study, and I just got to thinking, who was this woman? What was her background? And then a situation came up in our family that made me want to research it further. So this was many years ago, and I started writing about the adulterous woman, and the more research I did, the more intrigued I became with her. Initially, or previously, I had thought that she was a prostitute, but most scholars believe that she was a betrothed virgin, and she was trapped in order to trap Jesus. So in some ways, she was an innocent victim. I mean, she had choices, of course, but she was not the jaded woman that a lot of times we think of her as being. And so I wanted to portray that part of the biblical account, that perhaps she had been set up in order to frame Jesus. So that's how I first got interested in the series.
How did you develop characters with so little biblical information at your disposal?
That's an interesting question. You just do all the research you can, and I don't know how authors really did all their research without the internet. I mean, it is invaluable. Of course, you can't take everything that you read on the internet as truth. You have to research it. Now, I try to get at least 3 accounts or 3 resources before I write about something. But you just research as much as you can, and then you build a character around that. For instance, you find out about the clothing, and you find out entrapped about the wedding ceremony. I start with the wedding ceremony at Cana. You find out about Jewish wedding ceremonies, and you build your characters into that. Now, the woman at the well was the one that gave me the most grief about the research, because there was not much about the Samaritan woman, and I think maybe that's your next question, isn't it?
Well, which of the 4 was your favorite?
My favorite
novella?
It probably, now it would be between the adulterous woman and the woman who anointed Jesus' feet. They both had such a heart for Jesus, particularly the woman, the adulterous woman, after Jesus forgave her, and the life that she built, that I perceived that she built afterwards, and how she came to know Jesus, had such a heart for him. And then, of course, the woman who anointed Jesus' feet, she was completely broken and was willing to cross cultural lines in order to worship him. I think those 2 would be my favorites because of their heart for Jesus.
Is there one of the 4 that in the end you felt that you identified most with?
You know, there were aspects of each woman that I identified with. The adulterous woman, of course, being feeling like you were caught at something innocent, and that you really got into innocently, but your choices led you there, and the need for forgiveness. The woman at the well, how life just kind of happened to her, and she found herself at the end of her life having made some really bad choices, and she was isolated and alone. I've already mentioned the woman who anointed Jesus' feet, how she just appreciated and loved him so much for the deliverance that he performed for her. And then the woman with the issue of blood, of course, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor and can attest to Jesus' healing. So there are aspects of each woman that I identify with.
Is there a favorite secondary character for you that developed as you wrote?
I think probably in Claudia, who was the friend of the woman of Tirzah, the woman who anointed Jesus' feet. She made a little friend in the marketplace who was crippled, and both of the girls, when they made friends with each other, they were rejected. Tirzah because she was the daughter of a prostitute, and Claudia because she was crippled. And so they bonded and formed a friendship and loved each other. And Claudia turned into a really nice secondary character who really, Tirza took Claudia to be healed of Jesus, not really knowing that she needed the inner healing, the spiritual healing. And so both of them were healed, Claudia physically and Tirza spiritually.
If these novellas were made into a movie, what actors would you pick to play their characters?
I love this question. Some authors don't like this question, but I like this question. To play Jesus, I think I would pick Jim Caviezel. I love the job he did in The Passion of Christ. I thought it was a very real Jesus that he portrayed. To portray the adulterous woman, I think I would pick Scarlett Johansson. She's young, and this being a betrothed virgin, the adulterous woman was probably young, and she has an innocence about her and yet a sensuality about her that I like. I love the job she did in The Girl with the Pearl Earring, and so I think I would pick her. For The Woman at the Well, I think I would pick Susan Sarandon. She was, of course, older. She had had 5 husbands, and I think Susan Sarandon would be a good woman at the well. For The Woman Who Anointed Jesus' Feet, Tirza, I think I would pick Julia Roberts. I think she has the flair and would portray that character well. And then The Woman with the Issue of Blood, I think I'd pick Sandra Bullock to play her.
Thank you so much. We look forward to more reader questions.